On 1st July 2024, China marks its 103rd anniversary of the foundation of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. The Communist Party of China was founded in 1921 by Chen Duxiu and Li Dazhao. Mao Zedong was a founding member of the party and rose through its ranks to become its leader and chairman in 1943. The CCP under his leadership emerged victorious in the Chinese Civil War against the Kuomintang, and in 1949, Mao proclaimed the establishment of the People's Republic of China. Since then, the CCP has governed China and has sole control over the People's Liberation Army, PLA. Each successive leader of the CCP has added their theories to the party's constitution, which outlines the ideological beliefs of the party, collectively referred to as socialism with Chinese characteristics. Throughout the years, the Communist Party of China has seen several leaders, each with their own set of policies, theories, and worldviews. But one thing had remained constant: the art of deceit and deception. This July, when the Communist Party of China will celebrate its 103 years of existence, the fete as grand as one might imagine, featuring a mass rally complete with a military flyover and plenty of flag waving and patriotic songs. We will dig into the legacy of treachery and lies the CCP left behind in these past 100 years, though you must be wondering if it would take an entire book to talk about all the lies CCP peddled. Well, of course, communism runs on lies and propaganda that are supplemented by brute state control and censorship. However, in this episode, we are going to talk about some lies that expose the world's longest-running dictatorship. Lie 1. It's okay to criticize the party and have an independent opinion. The first and foremost thing a man is entitled to be his thoughts and opinions. Unfortunately, this luxury is not given to any member of the Communist Party of China or any Chinese citizen. Time and again, the Chinese government, through its state-controlled media, tries to paint a merry picture of CCP as a place where differences of opinion are welcomed, a place where everyone has a right to speak their mind. But in reality, the only right anyone has under the CCP in China is the right to remain silent and obey the diktat given by the party. In 1956, Mao Zedong gave a slogan: "Let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools of thought contend." Mao used the slogan to tell citizens that it is acceptable to criticize the party. Widespread and bitter criticism hit the party hard. Streets were inundated with posters critical of party officials. Educational institutions had debates and discussions denouncing party policies. Mao had no intention of giving freedom of speech to the citizens. He had just lied. He had used the ploy to expose the counter-revolutionaries. By 1957, large-scale purges took place. Intellectuals and academicians were denounced, jailed, or sent to work in the countryside. Similarly, under Deng Xiaoping, a liberal Communist Party leader, Hu Yaobang, who was the General Secretary of CCP and was considered to be a sane voice, rooted for changes in the political system of China, to make it more liberal. But such a voice doesn't go down well with the CCP, and he was ultimately thrown out of the party. And soon after this, he died due to a heart attack. His death was seen as the punishment he faced for wanting to liberate China from the clutches of CCP's dictatorship and authoritarian regime. Xi Jinping too, as soon as he gained power, made one thing very clear: any voice of dissent will not be tolerated and will be crushed immediately. Following the path of his predecessors, Xi launched a series of purges and large-scale arrests of all his critics under the veil of an anti-corruption drive. These arrests include fellow party members like Sun Zhengkai, the former Communist Party secretary for the city of Chongqing, business magnates like Ren Zhiqiang, and even people like Wang Yongchun, who was vice president of China National Petroleum, the parent company of PetroChina. He was also the head of the country's biggest oil field, Docking. Even sudden disappearance of multi-billionaire Jack Ma too was a part of this ongoing effort to stifle any voice that dares to speak against the king. The list is so long that a book can be dedicated to the number of people who have been purged for the crime of having an independent mind. Lie 2. GDP growth rate. Yes, China lies about its GDP numbers and often cooks its books. And this revelation was made by none other than Li Keqiang, then head of the Communist Party of China in northeastern Liaoning province in 2007. The US cable reported that Li, who served as the premier of China from 2013 to 2023, focused on just 3 data points to evaluate Liaoning's economy: electricity consumption, rail cargo volume, and bank lending. By looking at these 3 figures, Li said he can measure with relative accuracy the speed of economic growth. All other figures, especially GDP statistics, are for reference only, he said, smiling. The cable added, Chinese economic numbers, especially at the provincial level and lower, have long been viewed with suspicion by analysts. Even four intrepid economists, Wei Chen, Zilu Chen, and Michael Song of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, along with Chiang Tai-she of the University of Chicago, have taken a fine-toothed comb to Chinese economic data to try to tease out China's true rate of economic growth since 2008. Not surprisingly, they found that China has been over-reporting its growth rate by an average of 1.7 percentage points every year. Shave off a little growth every year for the last dozen years ago, and the cumulative effect is that China is now overstating its true GDP by nearly 20%. The four economists' forensic examination of China's GDP figures relied on hard-to-fake data like tax receipts, nighttime light intensity observed from satellites, electricity generation, railway cargo, and merchandise exports to estimate China's true growth rate since the 2008 global financial crisis. Their estimates are both much more volatile and nearly always lower than the figures reported by China's National Bureau of Statistics. China has pockets of prosperity in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, Shenzhen that are used to give a false image of Chinese economic growth and development, but most of the country is still very poor. The idea that China poses a serious economic challenge to the United States is simply preposterous. As its growth slows, it is rapidly becoming clear that the emperor has no clothes. The Chinese economy is faltering and the growth rate has plummeted. Lie 3. Casualty count. Over the years, the Communist Party of China has aced the skill of distorting and concealing actual data, figures, or anything that exposes the true image of the paper dragon. Because the CCP knew very well that numbers don't lie, what if you don't even show the true numbers? One could lie as much as one wants. Under Deng Xiaoping, the Chinese government has done everything in its power to suppress and forget about the activities that took place during the Tiananmen Square massacre. While official records say that 241 people lost their lives, most estimates suggest the real figures to be much higher. A doctor at the time said that 500 lives were lost, while a radio announcer reported the Tiananmen Square massacre death toll at more than 1,000. Most recently, however, estimates have risen even higher. According to The Independent, a secret British cable from the time alleged that a minimum of 10,000 people were massacred that day. Those who were merely wounded were simply bayoneted to death as they pleaded for mercy. Victims were then incinerated and hosed down the drains. Even during the corona pandemic, Chinese authorities understate the Chinese COVID death rate by 17,000%, according to The Economist's model. Based on excess mortality calculations, The Economist estimates that the true number of COVID deaths in China is not 4,636, but something like 1.7 million. It is becoming clear that the suppression or deletion of data related to excess deaths in China began shortly after the pandemic started. As a result, most multi-country studies of COVID prevalence and outcomes are forced to omit China from their analyses. The same pattern of distortion and deception was adopted by CCP during Indochina-Galban clash. How many soldiers of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, PLA, were killed in the face-off with the Indian Army at Galwan Valley on 15th June 2020? Was it 4 or 9? Or 14, it seems even the PLA is not sure. During various levels of talks with India, Chinese officials have, at different points of time, unofficially given contradictory figures for their Galwan clash casualties, contrary to the perception that the Indian side was outnumbered by the PLA in the Galwan Valley. It was the Chinese that faced the brunt, and they had to call in reinforcements to pick up the injured and dead soldiers. China has a history of downplaying the numbers of casualties whenever the country is struck by disasters or accidents or resorts to suppression of its people. In a shocking revelation about China hiding its losses in the Galwan Valley clash with India in June 2020, independent research has shown that the People's Liberation Army, PLA, lost at least 9 times more soldiers than its official count of 4. At least 38 PLA troops drowned while crossing a fast-flowing, sub-zero river in darkness. According to an article in the Australian newspaper The Klaxon, cited a report prepared by a group of social media researchers after a year-long investigation. Of the 4 soldiers China has confirmed died, only one, Junior Sergeant Wang Zhuoren, reported as having drowned, and the other 3, PLA Battalion Commander Major Chen Hongjun, Private Chen Xiangrong, and Junior Sergeant Xiao Siwan, were killed by Indian forces. The report cited a year-long investigation involving discussions with mainland Chinese bloggers, information obtained from mainland-based Chinese citizens, and media reports that have since been deleted by Chinese authorities. Even the Russian news agency TASS claimed that at least 20 Indian soldiers and 45 Chinese servicemen were killed during the clashes at the Galwan Valley in eastern Ladakh in June. As a result, the Chinese Communist Party got so panicked by the revelation of the actual death toll in the Galwan clash that it resorted to its classic textbook trick of suppressing any voice that dares to speak the truth. Chinese authorities arrested at least 6 people for posting online about Chinese soldiers killed in a border clash. One man is Nanjing blogger Qiu Ziming, who reportedly questioned the official death toll given by Chinese authorities and suspected that the number of Chinese casualties is more than what is said, to be received a jail term of 8 months for allegedly defaming PLA martyrs. Qiu's Weibo account, which had more than 2.5 million followers, has since been suspended. Moreover, CCP passed new legislation that bans defamation of military personnel, adding an array of legal tools to its 2018 law, under which Qiu was punished for defaming PLA soldiers killed in a clash with the Indian Army at the Galwan Valley in eastern Ladakh. To be fair, deceit and treachery aren't the only domains where CCP has gained expertise. China has made some decent progress in its hybrid warfare capabilities. In recent military strategy documents, China has emphasized the integration of information warfare and the strategic cyber frontier with its traditional military operations. This is further evidenced by the setting up of its Strategic Support Force, SSF, as the 5th branch of the People's Liberation Army to oversee its cyber and electronic warfare force. Hybrid war allows a protagonist to test the waters and calibrate further responses or drawbacks without burning their fingers. India must accordingly prepare for China to deploy a hybrid war strategy. We must remain alert to any misinformation campaigns or cyber warfare being deployed by China. As per many accounts, cyber defense is a weak point for India, and therefore bolstering it must become a priority. India must abandon its passive reactionary policies and should adopt a proactive approach to give a timely reply to any Chinese belligerents. So that's it for today's video. If you have any questions or suggestions, drop them in the comments, and remember to subscribe for more great content.